Welcome to Yoga for Complete Beginners. This is part one. So thanks so much for joining me. If you've never done yoga before, this is for you. Or if maybe you've stepped into a studio class in the past that you thought was for beginners or would be beginner friendly, and you walked out feeling overwhelmed and confused, this is a great place to start so that next time you're in a studio or on a retreat, perhaps with me, you feel better prepared to participate in the physical part of our yoga practice. So the physical part of our yoga practice is the poses or the asana. That's one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And that's typically what's featured when we're in a Western version of a yoga practice. But we will also talk through some of the other limbs like breathwork and meditation. But for now, we'll focus on the physical postures and we'll notice some of those other things, but we'll find shapes in our bodies that feel good for how we are feeling that day or how our body is built, and not worry about so much if it looks just like the way my body is moving. We'll just decide and make sure that it feels good, and that will be our barometer. So often classes start in what people refer to as an easy seat. For a lot of people, sitting cross-legged is not easy. So if you're in a yoga class in a studio and they ask you to start in an easy seat, grab one of these nice foam blocks that most studios have. If you're at home, you could grab a big book or even a very sturdy box, and you can sit up on it, and that takes away some of the pressure and some of the compression between your hips. So we will not actually be starting in a seat, but a lot of classes do, so I wanted to offer that up. We will be starting all the way on our backs. So we're going to start in Savasana pose, which is the Sanskrit word for corpse pose or our final resting pose. We're going to start and end our class there, bring some symmetry to our practice. So we're going to lay all the way on our backs. If you have blocks at home, you probably don't if you're a beginner, but if you do, grab them. Otherwise, grab some steady, sturdy hardback books. And then if you have just a blanket off your couch or a towel, we'll use that later. So let's start our practice. Come all the way onto your backs. Slowly lower yourself down. So a couple of options. You can either start in this full version of our final resting pose, legs extended. For a lot of people, that feels pretty pinchy in the low back, especially as a place to start. So instead, if it might feel better, place soles of the feet onto the earth. Walk your feet as wide as your mat, or if you're just not practicing on a mat, you're maybe just on the rug in your living room. Walk your feet wider than hip distance. And then allow the knees to fall in towards each other, creating a little bit of a triangle, and that'll relieve some of the pressure on the low back. So check in with your breath. Allow your eyes to be heavy or closed. Your arms can fall out wide, hands open to the sky, or maybe you place your hands on your belly. And just start to notice the breath moving through your body. Noticing the inhales, noticing the exhales. You're not used to noticing your breath throughout the day. Just take these few moments to notice how it feels when you slow down, when you feel your body move with your breath. That's what this flow or vinyasa class, we're going to do a basic or gentle version of a flow or vinyasa yoga class. That's what this idea of a flow class is, to move our body with our breath. Maybe to find some union or sync them together. We're going to do a very slow, modified version of that sort of class. You can choose to do or not do anything that I'm offering. So let's take another few moments to settle in here. Allow your shoulders to rest on the earth. Allow your eyes to be heavy or closed. Soften the space between your eyebrows, soften your jaw. Maybe notice the sensation of the ground supporting you, or your mat, or the carpet, wherever you are. Just notice the sensation of being held up, being fully supported. It's natural and okay if your mind wanders to other places, other things to do. how our brains are wired most of the time. If you find that and it bothers you that happens, just bring your mind back to your breath. You can even add a count, inhaling to a count of 4, and exhaling to a count of 4. That's just one simple breath technique you can use throughout your day or your practice. Bring yourself back to the present moment and ground yourself here in this space. So if it's comfortable, maybe you're finding your breath in and out through your nose. If you'd like to get rid of a little bit of stale or stagnant energy, we'll take a few rounds of a cleansing breath. So we'll inhale through our nose, filling all the way up to the top, and then open the mouth, let it go, exhale. Awesome, should feel relaxing. Take a big inhale through the nose. Open the mouth, side out, let it go. Real nice audible exhale. One more, big inhale through the nose. Exhale, side out, let it go. Awesome. We'll start to link our breath with our posture. So extend your legs long if they're not. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Full big inhale here. And then exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Inhale, find length. And then exhale, hug the knees in. So you go with your breath. Your breath might be longer than mine. I tend to breathe a little shallow. I have some asthma. Inhale, reach long. Exhale, bring it in. So you can maybe find that breath of in and out through the nose. Just breathe in a way that feels comfortable and that feels sustainable for you. One more round like that. Inhale, reach long. Exhale, hug the knees in. This time, keep the knees in. Give them a little squeeze. Your knees can be together or they can be farther apart. We're all built differently, so allow this to feel good in your body. It doesn't matter what it looks like in my body, or maybe if you're practicing with a friend or a partner, it doesn't matter how it looks in theirs compared to yours. And then let the left sole of the foot come down to the earth. Draw just the right knee in. Right hand on the right kneecap, and we're going to draw some circles in the sky. It's like you're tracing a circle on your ceiling, or if you're lucky enough to be outside, on the sky above you. And then switch. Circle the knee the other direction. And we'll find a gentle hip opener here. So cross your right ankle over your left knee. If you're already feeling sensation in the outside of your right hip, stay just as you are. If you feel like you need a little more sensation, start to draw your left knee in towards your chest. Maybe you reach around and grab for the back of the left thigh. Certainly don't have to. And then feet can be flexed, or if it feels better to just let them hang. We're going to focus and notice the sensation in the outer right hip. So maybe come back to closing your eyes, checking in with your breath. Let's be here for 3 more rounds of breath together. Awesome. Slowly unwind. Maybe bicycle the legs out in the air if it feels good. Get some movement into your hips. And then right sole of the foot comes to the earth. Draw your left knee in with your left hand. And then trace some circles. So trying to keep your pelvis nice and level. Trace some circles in the sky. Left hand on left kneecap. Let your arm and your hand guide the movement. Your leg is sort of just along for the ride. And then switch, circle the other way. Then cross your left ankle over your right. Same thing we did on the other side. So we call this figure 4, or there's a version on our belly called pigeon. So this is a good alternative for pigeon. For a lot of people, that can be a really intense posture. So again, if you feel the right level of sensation in your left outer hip, now stay. If you feel like you want more, lift your right foot off the mat. Draw the right knee into your body until you feel a degree of sensation that feels comfortable to you. You want to find sensation but not pain. Never forcing ourselves to go too deep. And then check back in with your breath. Allow your eyes to be heavy or closed. Maybe roll out the ankles if it feels good. And find stillness and breathe. Let's take 3 more rounds of breath. Nice, slowly unwind, uncross, bicycle the legs out. And then we're gonna come up onto hands and knees. So you can either fall over to one side and push yourself up, or if you want, you can rock up and down. Then we're gonna rock up and over onto hands and knees. If you have a blanket or a towel, and it might feel nice to pad your knees, do so. Certainly not required. Some of us have a little more tender knees. I'm one of them. And we're going to come into tabletop position. So this is a foundational pose that you'll find in a lot of classes. You want to have your shoulders over your wrist and your hips over your knee. And then if you're hypermobile or you find that you're pretty bendy in your joints, make sure there's a little micro bend in the elbows so you're not hyperextending in the elbows. Spread the fingers super nice and wide. So you want the fingertips spread as wide as possible. Build that nice, strong foundation. And then think about energetically pulling the belly button into the spine. Find some power here in this pose. And then drop your belly, lift your gaze as you inhale, finding cow pose. And then exhale, tuck your chin towards your chest, round your spine. Feel like you're puffing up between your shoulder blades like a cat for cat pose. So we'll flow through this. This is very common in a lot of types of classes, cat and cow. So cow pose, you're finding a stretch across the belly, maybe you lift your chin. Find your inhale there. And then exhale, round into the spine, tuck the chin and round up into your shoulders, press the mat away. Again, drop the belly, scoop the chin down and then up, find your cow pose. Exhale, round the spine, find your cat. Awesome. Take 2 more rounds with your breath, which might mean it's faster or slower than mine. If one of these postures feels really good, you want to stay there for an extra couple rounds of breath, please do. Awesome. Then we'll settle back into child's pose. So child's pose is often referred to as a resting pose in our yoga class. But again, like an easy seat, it's not that comfortable for a lot of people. So one place to start is to pad your knees. We're going to take our knees wide. There's a couple of options. Knees can go as wide as the mat, or it may feel better to keep them in close. And then we're going to slowly walk ourselves towards the earth. For a lot of people, getting their head or chest to the mat is not feasible, doesn't feel good. You're going to take your block or your book and bring the ground to you. So our props, like our blocks, are just ways to either make our limbs a little longer or make the ground a little bit more accessible. So place your head on a block or a blanket. And then for a lot of people, especially often for men, hips can feel extra super tight. If you have another blanket, you could roll up behind your knees. That may feel better. We're not going to be here for long because, again, for a lot of people, this is not necessarily easy or comfortable. It's just a foundational pose that is in a lot of classes. So let's stay here for 3 rounds of breath. See if you can press the space between your eyebrows into the earth. Gaze is down. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. Start to walk your hands back. Find your way to our tabletop position where we just were. Hands and knees, all fours. Shake your hips out left and right. And then we'll find some circles. So circling your hips around your knees a few times. Getting some movement moving. Getting some good movement into our hips, waking them up. Awesome. And then we're going to move into down dog, another foundational posture in our practice. And we're not going to hold it for very long. We're just going to talk about some of the basic mechanics, and then in parts 2 and 3, we'll work into it a little bit more. So same as tabletop, fingers spread super, super wide. Tuck your toes, lift your knees, just find that engagement there and then drop them down. And then lift your knees again, drop them down. This time we're going to tuck our toes, lift our knees, and then start to lift our hips up and back. Start to press your chest towards your thighs. I want you to take a really big bend in your knees. Look back at your toes. Feet should be about hip distance. Our head and neck is heavy. We're not going to stay here for long. If you want, you can bend one knee, straighten one leg, and then switch. And again, we'll talk more mechanics on down dog in a later class. But for now, just walk your feet towards your hands. Find an inhale halfway lift. So that is pressing into shins, or maybe you have your blocks. Drawing your head away, crown of the head away from the tailbone. Finding a super nice long spine. So it's really not about getting the legs super straight, it's about finding length in the spine, getting some space between the vertebrae, lengthening the disc. Awesome. And then exhale, find a forward fold. Again, big bend in the knees. Forward fold is not about getting the legs straight, it's about releasing the spine. So let your chest rest towards your thighs or on your thighs. Let your head be super heavy. So head should be maybe gazing back through the knees. And then allow yourself to just sway side to side. If it feels okay, we'll find the ragdoll arm variation. So grab for your opposite elbows like you're building a little box around your face. And then find a little sway. We'll flow through a modified version of what we'll call a half sun salutation. So inhale, lift up halfway again like you did before. Hands on shins, thighs or your blocks. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Maybe you feel a nice stretch down your hamstrings. Exhale, fold. And then root down. We're going to roll up one vertebra at a time. You can drag your hands along your thighs if that feels good. Come on up to standing. So our standing pose is one of our foundational poses, mountain pose. It's called Tadasana in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of yoga. So you'll sometimes hear teachers cue postures in Sanskrit. If I do, I will always also cue the English version. So feet are hip distance. You can spread the fingertips wide towards the front of your space. Melt the shoulders away from the ears. And then we'll just take a little simple reach and lift here. Inhale, reach. And then exhale, draw the hands down through center. Awesome. Take 2 more times like that. Inhale, reach. Exhale, hands down through center. Last one. Inhale, reach. I like to say a little bend in the knees. That feels good to me. Hands come to heart. Awesome. This time we're going to inhale, reach, and fold. And we're going to make our way back down to our mats, finding a little version of our sun salutation here. Inhale, reach. And then this time, exhale, fold. Hinge at the hips. Start to fold down. Inhale, find that half lift. Shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, fold. Palm your mat. We're going to step back to plank and then immediately drop to our knees. So shoulders over wrist, fingers spread wide. Step 1 foot back and then the other. Drop to your knees. And then we're going to take a version of this flow from our knees. So rock your chest forward. Elbows squeeze in tight. Elbows graze the ribs, gaze forward, look forward, slowly lower your chest to the earth, and then peel the shoulders down, untuck the toes, and then lift a tiny bit in the chest, little baby cobra pose. Lift up, we're not pressing into the hands, we're lifting with the strength of the low back. Awesome, and then release. 2 more cobra poses. Lift up with the chest, find length in the neck, gaze down, exhale, release. Inhale, lift up, cobra. Exhale, release. Awesome. Press yourself up and back through our tabletop, our all fours. Shake it out. So that was a modified partial version of our sun salutation, which is a base format that then a lot of the flow classes build onto. So just kind of whetting your appetite for your beginner yoga practice. We will have several more parts coming after this where we will do more standing postures, warrior 1, warrior 2. We will also workshop a little bit more in down dog. But for now, let's close our practice together. So we're going to swing our legs around. And then take our hips towards our heels, slowly lower ourselves down. And we'll find a couple of options. A pose that's often used to close class is bridge pose. If you have a block, you can take a More gentle restorative version of bridge, or if you have a book. So soles of the feet down on the earth. Hips start pulling towards the heels. Lift your hips up enough to place your block or your book underneath the low back. And then just find this gentle opening in the front body. If you don't have a prop that's comfortable to lay on, instead we're going to take a few pelvic tilts. Allow your back to rest on the earth. And then we're going to take these hip points that make up part of our pelvis, and we're going to rock them back towards our belly button. So our low back is flattening to the earth. And then think about your pelvis being a bowl of cereal. We're going to rock the hip points forward towards our thighs, and what would be in our bowl would splash towards our heels. So just these little pelvic tilts. Feet are hip distance, knees are hip distance, everything in line. So if you're on that block, you're finding that gentle restorative bridge pose, stay there. Otherwise, find a few more pelvic tilts, maybe drawing a bigger curve in the spine and then lifting the hips an inch. So it's a super micro movement, not trying to get too much height here. Awesome, and then draw the knees into the chest one at a time. Rock a little side to side. One more final posture here. We're going to extend our legs straight up. Find a little bend in the knees, especially if the hamstrings feel tight. If you have your block, you can lift your hips up. Place your block again underneath the low back. Find this waterfall position, allowing a little bit of reverse of gravity. Really good if you stand or sit all day. If you don't have a block, no worries. You can either stack your hands underneath your low back or just place them off to the side, extend the legs high. Take a few more rounds of breath here. If you still want a little activity in the body, you can point and flex your toes, stretch in the calves. And take a big inhale. Exhale, let it go. Slowly release, draw the knees into the chest. And release the feet down to the earth. If you feel like you need to make any other movements, rocking the knees side to side, take the feet wide. Find some little windshield wipers. It feels good to end this very short little class with a twist sometimes. So rock the knees to the right. Maybe gaze to the left. Awesome, and then switch. Rock the knees to the left, gaze to the right. Rock them back to center. Maybe squeeze yourself one more time. And then let it go. We'll extend ourselves out into our final resting pose. We won't stay in our Savasana, our final pose, as long as we would in a normal class. We'll just be here for a few rounds of breath. But if you want to take a nice full 5-minute rest on your back, feel free to turn off the video and extend your little sweet reward at the end of class a little bit longer. You're going to stay with me, take about 5 to 8 full rounds of breath here. Notice if even just those few rounds of movement made you feel a little bit looser, feel a little bit more warm and stretched out. Allow the eyes to be heavier closed. Take several rounds of breath in silence. Allow the body to be fully heavy and released. Take a deeper breath in, a deeper breath out. Wiggle fingers and toes. Draw knees into chest. Then rock yourself over to one side, press yourself up. Finding a seat or extending legs long if the seat isn't comfortable. And we'll close class together. So hands can rest on the knees or over your chest. Take a moment to find gratitude for doing this nice new thing for your body, for taking time to notice your breath. Find gratitude for your ability to get onto the floor and back off again. Something a lot of us take for granted, but It's a really nice thing to have that mobility at any age. And then take a moment to remind yourself that you are enough just as you are right now. You have always been enough. You will always be enough. No changes needed. No apologies necessary. Taking this gratitude and this reminder that you are enough with you through your day and your week. It's truly my honor to practice with you. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. In gratitude, I bow and say thank you to each of you for showing up on your mat or in your living room to restart or start your yoga practice. Thanks so much for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you over on part 2.